Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I'm thrilled, I'm ecstatic, I'm joyful to have Jason Cutter back on the show. And if you missed it, you need to go back in July and find the replay of his 2 episodes that I did. He got 2 episodes in the top 25 all-time episodes for the Author to Authority podcast. So I suggest listen to this one first and then go back and listen to the other ones, because Jason's concept of sales and how he makes it in a way that you can be authentic, you can be kind, you can be caring is just, it's so unique. And once you hear him, you're going to understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you haven't listened to the other ones, Jason Cutter, he's a scalability expert. He's the head of Cutter Consulting Group. He's a mindset and scalability expert focused on developing authentic persuaders. And we're going to talk more about that. Even though his bachelor degree is in marine biology. And if you want to hear the story, okay, we're not going to go too much in the story today on that. But if you want to hear about him playing with sharks, go back and listen to the other episodes. He knows what it takes to be successful in sales and build profitable teams. His books, podcasts, training workshops, and speaking are focused on helping sales professionals close more deals, make more money, and produce scalable results. Welcome back to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Kim. I am honored to be here. I've been a second-time guest on a few podcasts, but never a third-time returning guest. So I appreciate what that means, and to have the a couple of episodes in the top 25 is really cool. It wasn't my target and my goal, but I'm glad it's been valuable for the audience.
So if you want to go back to episodes 383 and 384, and by the way, actually it's funny because 384 released this morning in July. We're recording this in July and it just released this morning. So you can go back and listen to those 2 episodes as well. Jason, I would love to get an update about what's been going on in your life, your business, since the last time you were on the show.
Well, so the biggest thing for me is focusing on how do I help more people and more companies at scale. One of the evolutions that happens, especially as an author, a consultant in those categories where, A, it's, take any work that you can in the very beginning, and B, a lot of time spent deeply embedded projects, which is what I've done. I really enjoy those, right? Where sometimes a client wants me in their office for 40 hours a week for months, and it's that mode, but it's not scalable. You have one of those clients at a time. When it ends, then you're on the hunt for another one. You can't have more than one at a time, and it's really limiting. And so for me, I've been focusing on several different things to help more people in ways that I can, and then scale that. So since we spoke last, I have my book is now part of Utah State University's pro sales class. I didn't even know that was a thing a few years ago, that there's actually universities teaching sales, but it's actually pretty amazing. And from what I've seen by talking to so many professors, it actually works really well. So my book is now the fall semester required curriculum at the school, which is fun because I didn't write it for that purpose. I had no thought of that being what I would do with selling with Authentic Persuasion, yet that's where it ended up. And then I've also been working with universities in their continuing education program for an online course that I built that's available to the general public, but then some universities who are offering it in their continuing education course catalog for continuing education units. And so that's fun because now it's helping a much wider range of salespeople, future salespeople, frustrated salespeople, small business owners who hate the thought of having to sell, but they just want to do what they do, whether they're an accountant or, whatever it is, the sales part is something they dislike. And so really getting more of that out there, not just more content, but more products and more ways to help people.
Yeah. And you brought up something interesting because I actually had a client, John P. Davis. We did his book, How to Get a Sales Job. and he's now teaching at some of the universities. So, and he's doing sort of postgraduate work with these kids that are coming out of sales programs. They're now offering his course to help these kids get sales jobs because they've just taken all these years to learn how to sell and they don't know how to get a job afterwards. So, congratulations. Kudos to you,
Thank you.
Jason. That is awesome. And audience, think outside of the box. If you teach something or you have something or you coach something and you have a book that universities and colleges teach, I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. I mean, obviously there's some disciplines where there's like textbooks and it's hard to get in there and write textbooks, right? Like it's math or chemistry or something like that. But when it comes to leadership, HR, anything people related, now that's a much wider space because there's no industry standard. And there's, I called them all. I promise I actually called them all. There's in the sales world, there's 280 universities that offer somewhere between a sales class to a master's in sales and everything in between, right? Minors and majors and all that kind of stuff. And I literally called them all as part of this. And there's no one common thing, right? So you're very right. Like if you have something like at the local level, community college, continuing education, there's so many opportunities out there.
Wow. Okay, so audience, I want to highlight something he said in case you missed it. He called every single one of them.
I did.
Okay, you want to be successful? Don't be afraid to pick up that phone and call every single one of them. Now, this is off topic for today, Jason, but I'm just really curious. So I'm going to ask you the question because I'm sure the audience is thinking of it too. How did you introduce yourself on those calls?
And this is what I teach people on, and this is what you learn, and this is why you just got to do it at times. Is in the beginning, I was kind of a hot mess because I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what I was talking about in their language. Because every time you sell to somebody or you're talking to a company or an industry, they all have their own language, and so it was really trial and error. I basically what I was saying is, my name is Jason Cutter, and I sent emails to everyone, and I said, I'm following up on an email I sent. I created an online self-paced short course for continuing education in the world of professional sales and selling effectiveness, and I wanted to find out the process for submitting it to your university to be a part of your catalog. And that was it. And either I got to the right person, they're like, yeah, you can send it to me, or they're like, no, but you need to talk to this person, or they just say, no, we don't do that. And go away. And I just had a spreadsheet and I just because some of them are like, we don't offer that, or some of them were our faculty creates all of our courses and our content. And so we don't let outside people do it. And I'm like, that's fine. I just want the yeses. I want to find the people who are like, yes, we would love to talk to you. And then just repeated follow-ups.
Wow.
And then the other key, and this is what I did, because most people listening to this are probably also busy. They're doing other things. I'm doing other things. And so I made it a goal, 15 phone calls a day. That was it. Yeah. That was my goal. Got through it in like a month. Just take it bit by bit and just tally as you go. How do you eat that pan of brownies one bite at a time? I mean, I know people say how to eat an elephant, but no one eats elephants, but everyone's eating a whole pan of brownies. You do it one bite at a time, and that's it.
One bite, like one gulp, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, maybe how do you eat liver might be a better one, because sometimes it's like something you really don't want to do. But
don't put the sales calls with that, because my option for liver is not. And so then people say, oh, yeah, it's same thing with sales calls. Just don't do it.
It was funny as a teenager. Actually, for many, many years, I suffered from anemia. And when I was a teenager, they didn't have a lot of
like iron pills and stuff like that.
Yeah, they didn't have the supplements. So basically, I was given a list of foods that I needed to eat on a regular basis to keep the iron up. Liver was one of them. And my stepmother was British, so she made liver and it was like, I don't want to eat it. I don't like this. So and I wasn't an onion person either, though I love mushrooms. So my my stepmom, in kindness and graciousness, would cook a can of mushrooms just for me. She cooked 2 cans of mushrooms. I was allowed to have a total of 1. And so I would pile like 6 pieces of mushrooms to the tiniest piece of liver you could find.
Oh my gosh.
And there was no getting down from the table until it was finished. Like it wasn't, we didn't have a choice here. You ate what was put in front of you, right?
Yeah, same here.
Like the first time she made it, nothing, like no gravy, no mushrooms, right? And we sat there for hours, ate it cold.
That's brutal.
And then my mom realized just how much we hated it. So at least in the future, she made up like onions and mushrooms and gravy, and that helped it go down a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's wild.
I love that concept, Jason, because I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to get it all done at once. And my word for 2023 is consistency.
Yeah.
That whatever I take on, I'm going to do it consistently. So one of the biggest goals for this year was to get the podcast up to 3 episodes a week consistently. And I have done that actually since, November, December was at least 2 episodes a week. But from the beginning of this year, I have been consistent every single week with episodes for the podcast.
Well, and I think that's great. And that's a huge step. Like most people who either have done a podcast or think about it but feel overwhelmed would appreciate the fact of doing 3 a week. Like that's a big step. And going to your consistency thing, here's the biggest thing for people to remember is you cannot control results. Right? Notice I didn't say I'm going to have 15 conversations today. I'm going to close 15 deals. So I'm going to call 15 people. Like that was my goal. Because you can't control results. You can only control actions and activities. Like your goal is that I'm going to get this many downloads in my podcast because you can't control that, but you can control how much you put in. Same thing with writing. I can't control how many books I sell, but I can control that I write 1,000 words each day in and day out, and then that's going to lead to something, right? Or whatnot.
Or
and you can create some
how many podcasts you get on.
And how many you get on, and and work towards that, and set it the goal that you can do it. I mean, you can't control how many people say yes, but you can control how many times you ask.
That's right.
2020, I think I was on 75 podcasts as a guest, plus my own podcast that I have in addition to that. So it's like you can only control the actions and activities. So just set something you can do that day in and day out, and it will lead to results. If you plant enough seeds, unless you just suck at what you're doing, suck at planting seeds. If you plant enough seeds, you will get something from it.
Yeah. It's actually one of my goals is to start getting on podcasts. So I've got my year mapped out. I'm working towards some really new big things coming out in the fall. So that's my summer project, is to get all of those things in place. And I'm not announcing anything yet because I'm still just kind of finalizing what I'm doing. I should know the next week or so. Nice. But by the time you're listening to this, you'll probably, because we're recording in July, you'll probably have heard it already. So, but it's kind of fun talking about it at this stage when not 100% sure yet, but I'm working with some mentors and some specialists to develop something that I'm hoping is going to be amazing and just so helpful and impactful. And then the fourth part of the year is going to be starting to work on get on shows. And my goal is to be on 100 shows next year.
Easy. No problem. Yeah. You'll do it.
Yay! So Jason, I know you've come prepared to talk about authentic persuasion. And I want to give you lots of time to let loose and just talk about that. And, how consultants and professionals and speakers and coaches, how can they use this to just take their business forward in terms of their sales?
I think the biggest thing, and I've been seeing this a lot, especially over the last year, is where people are struggling with sales. So there's two things. One is they're struggling with the marketing side and getting interest and getting people to at least raise their hand enough to say, yes, I would like to talk to you. And then the other part is actually closing new business, getting somebody to move forward, the follow-ups and all kinds of, that activities that happen. And I think that the biggest thing is the first step is you've got to understand what you are selling and where that is valuable. Like this is the fundamental. One of the fundamentals of authentic persuasion is you've got to understand what it is that you're doing and helping somebody with. Like where are you leaving them in a better place? Like if they buy from you, where are they getting to? Again, there's some people out there where they focus on the pain. There's a lot of sales training and courses out there, and like Sandler is a big one on this, where it's like just focus on the pain. Everyone's in pain. Your goal should be solve pain. If you solve the pain, like people will pay you. But not everything in life is about solving a pain. Some people actually just want gain as well. They want something better. Like let's use you and your services, right? Like, do I want to write a book because I'm in pain? No, I want to write a book because I want to share my message or grow my business or whatever it is, right? Like you don't just focus on the painful side of it, but no matter what, it's all about leaving someone in a better place. And when you do that, then the sales shifts, because a lot of times what happens is people think sales is gross. Selling is gross. Everyone, like if I say used car salesperson, like most people can come up with an image, or they think of Danny DeVito's character in Matilda, like the dad who runs his used car dealership, just ripping people off, like gluing bumpers on. Yeah, like it's just, that's what people think about in sales. And most people have had an experience with a transactional, slimy, gross, pushy salesperson. And so they think, I don't want to do that. I just want to do coaching and consulting, but I don't want to have to sell people because sales is gross and that just makes me feel dirty. I don't want to do that. So they end up at the other extreme as an order taker, and then you're not helping anybody. And then you obviously have a client deficit and probably a financial deficit. And so you have to find the middle, which is, I know that I'm helping you. I know that I'm doing you a service by moving you forward. It's not, I'm not doing this to you. I'm doing this for you, and I'm doing this with you. And that's a huge shift. So many people, once you make that shift and you understand what your role is, then it's huge. And that's just the first part. That's an understanding, like how to make, the shift on your side.
Wow. Okay, I just had one of those moments. I went to say something and it totally, completely went out of my brain.
Well, I'll keep going. So the other part here
for me.
That's definitely fair. And so this is where the authentic persuasion framework is so important in that order, because I could have done persuasive authenticity, but then that puts one thing over the other. In this case here, you have to understand you, the authentic you, and not just like what you feel about this and what your strengths, but also like your role and how you show up and what you bring. There's so much of that. And a lot of times, and this is what I see a lot of people, even myself, and I catch myself, is I tell other people, what they should do, or I'm coaching them or I'm training them. And so many times I'm like, wait, that's good advice. I should do that too. And so we all kind of forget that, right? Like even right now, I'm talking to you. I'm like, wow, this is really good tips. I should do this. And it's just like our brain, a lot of us, like let's say in the coaching, consulting, small business community, people who are doing a thing, right? Again, you could be from coaching and consulting. You could be a recruiter. You could be an accountant. We just like to do our thing. And then we forget about using it ourselves, right? The cobbler's kids have no shoes. Like we do it for everyone else, but we forget to do it for ourselves. And so you have to be authentic first, because in the world right now, because everyone has access to all the information in the world, in the history of the world, people are informed. They no longer need you to tell them what a thing does or how a thing works. What they want to know is it the right fit for me? And should I buy from you? And is this the smartest decision? And so people, speak for myself, but most people want to deal with someone that they know, they like, they trust, Bob Berg's line from The Go-Giver. And then they want you to be that guide that's moving them forward and showing them what the best thing is to do. Now, do you remember what you were going to say?
No, but that's okay. I'll make up something else as I go along. I think trust, we live in a world where trust is so valuable right now
Mm-hmm.
because it's broken so often.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can prove, that people can trust you, when you're coaching, when you're helping people to change their lives in big or small ways,
Yeah.
that element of trust is crucial because they are allowing you into their world. And if you break that trust, first of all, you'll never get them as a client again. But
Yeah.
secondly, you'd be amazed how quickly word gets around that you're not trustworthy.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago that people who couldn't be trusted could hide or could just find more victims or whatever it is, right? Like, now with the internet, your reputation is going to precede you. Maybe in some B2C transactions, where someone
Mm.
might not have the time to research in advance, you can just pretty much assume that everyone is going to go online and look you up, especially if you're a coach, consultant, service provider, professional services. They're going to look you up either before they talk to you for the first time or after they talk to you for the first time. And they're going to do research and they're going to find out everything they can, and just assume that. Not everyone will, but you can just assume that that's what everyone's going to do, to find out, like, are you legit? Can they trust you? Are you going to do what you say you're going to do? And part of this is the lack of trust out there, and the bad actors, let's say, out there in the world in any scope. It's also, and this is what I've learned by interviewing lots of sales professors on my podcast, is one of them called it the Amazon effect, where whoever you're selling to, if they're a buyer, B2B, it doesn't matter. Like, they're a consumer in their normal life. We all are. And so what happens is we're all completely spoiled by going on Amazon. Like, this is what I do. I find whatever I'm looking for. I don't know, whatever the category is. It might be a bike rack for the car, right? I go, I look at it. I look at the number of stars and the number of reviews. I click on the top ones I like in the price range I'm thinking. I scroll immediately down to the bottom. I look at the reviews. Does this sound like most people like it? Great. Add it to the cart, move on with my life, right?
Mm.
And so when you're selling something like the services that we all offer, people, they don't have an easy way to do that. And so you've got to help them with that part of the process.
I so agree. And it sometimes it only takes like one bad thing said about you. And sometimes it's not even true. But the one bad thing in the right place where you can't get rid of it. Right? But you are correct that people do. And I think that also leads sort of, and I don't know if you're going to talk about it or not, but just the thought that, because people check you out, you also need to be careful what you're putting out there. Like, I think when it comes to social media in particular, if you want people to see you as a professional, then you better present yourself as a professional on social media, because when they Google you and they start checking out your social media, if they see anything but professionalism, I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of old high school friends and that on my social medias, but most of my social media is about the image that I present.
Yeah, and I think most people are understanding of like a personal profile, let's say on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. And they want to know that you're a human, but they also want to know that you're a professional that they can trust.
Yeah.
Right? Like, think about if you needed surgery and you found a doctor and then you went online to search that doctor, like, what would you see in their social media feed that would make you go, this doctor is a professional and I appreciate them, and they have this personal life and I'm okay with that? Or no, this doctor is doing crazy stuff and I don't like them or trust them, right?
Yeah, like if they're
And so
posting pictures of them downing beers, like, hello.
downing beers in Vegas and just partying all the time, you're like, is this really, like, they'd have to be really amazing and highly recommended and like really good at what they do where you ignore that. Here's the thing, and sometimes that happens, and we've all gone to doctors or been in an experience maybe with a family or friend at a doctor's office where the doctor is just cold and has no bedside manner and they're absolutely terrible, and you want to spend no time with that doctor, but they're amazing. and they're the leader in whatever they do, right? Let's say it's knee replacement surgery. And so you tolerate their bad bedside manner because of how amazing they are as an expert, right? You trust
Yeah.
their competency more than you need the bedside manner. Here's the thing, for most of us, we don't have that. We're not so amazing people will tolerate a bad social media profile or bad bedside manner from us, because we don't have that. The example I use all the time is, and this is so important for people to understand, is we all think we're special, right? And I'm saying we because I'm lumping us, myself with you, with, most of the audience, like the coaches and consultants. We all think we're amazing. We all think what we do is amazing. Your customers, our customers, do not care. No customer does. All the customers out there, for anything that's being sold, they see it as a commodity. It's easily replaceable and switched. There's only one exception I've ever found, and I can't find another one other than some brand loyalty. There's only one exception. There's only one monopoly out there that I know, and that's iPhones and Apple. If you want an iPhone, you have to deal with Apple. You have to deal with their pricing, with their customer service, with their battery life, with their app store. You do not have a choice. Smartphones, you have a choice. I can get an Android, I can get this, I can get that. But for iPhones, you have to deal with Apple. They have a monopoly. You do not have a choice. Everything else, they have a choice. They don't like you, or they don't think you're competent enough. They will find one of the thousands of other consultants out there who could also help them. And they literally don't care. All they want is the experience as a customer that they're looking for.
Yeah, that is so true. So true. We got about 5, 7, 8 minutes left. I want to shift gears a little bit here, Jason. I think the last time we were talked, you were just getting ready to publish your book. So I won't ask you the question I normally ask, which was what was the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we did talk about that the last time you were on. But I would love to talk with you a little bit about some of the results that you've seen, mostly professionally, but even personally, since publishing the book. Like, what has the book done for you?
The biggest thing, so I have, I'll say 2 books plus one more now. So I'm selling with Authentic Persuasion, Transform from Order Taker to Quota Breaker. Then I have Reasons Not to Focus on the Sales Experience, which is a great book that I co-wrote with Nick Glimsdahl, which is funny to say I co-wrote it, because if you check it out, you'll see like, why did he have a co-author? But it makes sense. It's a great book for anyone running a sales operation or a sales team. And then I'm a contributing author for Voices for Leadership, Volume 1, and then Volume 2 coming out soon. The biggest thing for me is to set myself apart from everyone else, right? Like I'm now in a category, which again, this is not from like an ego standpoint, but like somebody pointed out, like how many consultants out there have a book versus don't have a book, right? And I have multiple books, and I have multiple coming out this year. And then how many speakers out there have a book versus don't have a book? And then how many consultants and speakers out there have a book that's at a university being used to teach students, right? Like each one of these is just a category to differentiate myself from others. Because again, like I just said a few minutes ago, your potential customer views you and all of us as a commodity. Should I go with consultant A or consultant B? I don't know. Which one do I like better? Which one is telling me the things that make me feel like this is the right choice or not? And so when it comes to that, it's like, how do you separate yourself? Like I have a handful of ebooks, I have a whole lot of podcast episodes. And so like, setting that credibility. And again, the biggest thing is what we just talked about with the social media is I know that between when somebody finds me or is referred to me and when they talk to me, they're going to research me. And I probably mentioned this last time, I am the #1 ranked Jason Cutter on Google. Like it's a funny thing to say, but it is also my call to action if I want to. It's like at the end of the episode when you say, how can people find you? I'm the #1 ranked Jason Cutter on Google. Like you Google it, there's one other dude that's like in the aviation field who will pop up on page 1. Otherwise, I dominate the first like 4 or 5 pages. Like I'm not messing around. And I do that because I want people to pull it up and go, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I want to at least talk to him. Also having a book, going to conferences, handing them out, selling them at conferences, being on stage, doing giveaways, just sending it as a thing. Like I'm talking to somebody, I have a meeting, I send them the book. They're usually blown away. It's 264 page hardcover, right? So it's not messing around either. And so like it's done a lot. It definitely differentiates myself when anyone gets it or sees it and they're like, okay, this is not just some consultant who's playing consultant.
Yeah, because you wrote the book on it.
I wrote the book and working on more for sure.
Oh, okay, Jason. We'll start to tie this up here. So I want to give you a minute or two to share a final thought with us.
You know, if we're just talking about sales, one of the biggest things is to understand that your job is to be the guide and not the hero. And this is one of the punchlines from a lot of the training and the speaking that I do. But I think it's really important to at least get this concept for anyone listening to this or watching this. Is a lot of times they think they have to be the hero. I'm the one coming in to save the day. I got to talk about how great I am and talk about how amazing I am. The problem with that is your customer is also a self-centered human, and they think they're the center of the universe, and they think the world revolves around them. And so the only way to really help them is to be the guide and not the hero, to move them forward to that better place instead of like trying to prove how amazing you are. When you shift that, and that's why I created this authentic persuasion pathway framework that I have. But when you do that, when you play the guide, A, it takes the pressure off of having to sell, and then B, it's a totally different role where you're now leading them instead of pushing them. It's all about pull instead of push.
Wow. Love that. Love that. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question. You already kind of answered it, but I'll ask you the question anyway. Jason, how do people connect with you if they really enjoyed today's episode?
The best way to connect is usually on LinkedIn. Like I'm on there all the time. Like we've talked about this before. Go on LinkedIn, connect with me, chat with me, put a lot of content on there, posting all the time. My main website is cutterconsultinggroup.com. So whether you're like a business owner or a sales leader or a salesperson, there's two different sides to the website with different resources and ebooks and all kinds of stuff. And then again, when in doubt, Google Jason Cutter, and you'll find more than enough stuff to help you on that journey.
Well, audience, I can let you know, because I am connected with Jason on LinkedIn, that he is true to his word, and he does post a lot of really great, encouraging, informative. I love that LinkedIn has that new little icon that's like insightful. I love pressing that one. Insightful. Yep. That was insightful. Very insightful information on LinkedIn. So this has been Jason Cutter and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.